How much do you have to spend on Facebook to find yourself a motivated seller that then will turn into a deal that you can make $7,500 or $10,000 when you're doing wholesaling for real estate? So that is a question I'm going to answer for you today, because I get that question all the time. And so let's go ahead and just answer that question once and for all. And if you don't know yet, I am the #1 person teaching real estate investors how to use Facebook ads in order to find motivated sellers. I have the most students and the most success stories. So I say that because once you're finished watching this video, if you haven't watched my series here on this channel on how to use Facebook to find motivated sellers, you should watch that. I'll include a link in the description here in this video, as well as when you're finished watching this video, it'll take you to that series so you can watch that as well. So let's talk about, first of all, if I'm gonna answer that question for you appropriately, then I need to set some foundational metrics for you. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna establish a baseline here. And then what we're gonna do is I'm gonna give you the things that make that baseline go up or down. And so these are very important. And my objective with this video is to prepare you and to have you look at this in the right filter, so that then you give it the best chance it deserves. Because the worst thing that could happen is that you try and do Facebook ads for motivated sellers, and it doesn't work for you. But then looking back, if you would have known certain things, if you would have come at it with the right perspective, then at that point then you would have had success. But that never happened. So I don't want that to happen to you. So let's discuss these items one by one. So the first item here is the number of leads. You have to go into this thinking that you're going to do whatever it takes in order for you to generate 50 leads, 50, so that now you can have the chance to make a deal from Facebook ads for motivated sellers. You should consider that number for anything that you're doing, even if you were doing direct mail. And I'm not doing any direct mail right now. But if you are considering to do direct mail, you should at least think that you have got to generate 50 leads, so that now you have an opportunity to make that channel work. And so the reason that's important is because in any particular marketing endeavor, you have to be able to give yourself enough time and also enough of a chance to make it work. So if you generated 10 leads off of Facebook and you didn't get a deal, and then you walk away saying, I think that guy Chico, he's full of crap because it didn't work for me. Well, the problem is that you didn't generate enough leads. And there are certain variables that will allow you to have success quicker, or will cause success to come even further away from that number. So it'll take you a lot more leads. And I'm going to discuss those in just a minute on this video. But you got to give yourself the opportunity to generate enough leads. So again, the number is 50 leads. The next number is cost per lead. Now, cost per lead varies among all the different channels. And so for Facebook, I'm going to tell you that you're going to have a cost per lead, an average cost per lead of $30. $30 per lead. Now, that is a really good cost per lead, by the way, because if you're doing direct mail, if you're doing PPC, a lot of these other methods, you're going to pay a lot more per lead. So if you can get leads for $30, you're doing great. So that's cost per lead. Now, some students are able to take my materials and are able to get leads for $10 a lead. And I'll tell you some of the things that affect that, so that hey, what are some of the things that I can tweak with with what I'm doing with Facebook in order to get leads that are cheaper, or what would cause leads to be more expensive. But you got to look at it as, hey, on average, I have to commit to generating 50 leads. And I'm going to spend about $30 a lead. So if you do your math, okay, what does that mean? That means that you're going to spend, you have to go into this willing to commit and be able to spend $1,500. Now, some of you might say, well, gee, that scares me, Chico. I mean, I don't have $1,500. Well, then get $1,500. If you're saying, I'm going to do cold calling instead, I would argue that if you take into consideration, the cost to buy the list, to skip trace the list, and then you have to spend hours and hours on the phone cultivating and calling these people, etc., then you're already like the differential between what you're going to spend more on Facebook is not that much. And so keep that in mind. But at the very least, you got to go into this thinking that you're going to spend $1,500. And now then that goes into the next number is average deal size. So for the purposes of our video, I'm going to say that we're going to target an average deal size of $10,000. However, many students, I had a student that got his first deal, and that was a $25,000 deal. Am I saying that you're going to get a $25,000 deal? No. Am I guaranteeing that? No, I'm saying that's possible. And you could have a $2,000 or $3,000 deal. My opinion is that even if you just have a first deal that only makes you $2,000 or $3,000, that is still amazing, because I'm a firm believer in that once you get your first deal, then it makes the second and third come quickly, and then after that, it's all downhill from there. Getting that first deal is the most important thing, so it doesn't matter how much you make. Obviously, you want to make as much as you can. However, for the purposes of this here, I'm going to just say that we're going to be making an average of $10,000 a deal. Now, why is it important for us to establish that the $10,000 per deal? Because you have to look at this from an ROI perspective. You have to look at this as, hey, if I can invest $1,500, put some sweat equity, learn this business, and then I could get $10,000 back out. Then the next question is, hey, how can I do that 10 times this month? How many businesses do you know that you're able to do this with, that you're able to invest that sort of marketing money and get this amount of return, all right, without incurring a lot of the costs that are associated with all these other businesses? And so again, $10,000, to make $10,000 and only spend $1,500, that would be amazing. So that's the framework and the perspective that I'm trying to give you here with this. So let's talk about what are the things that would affect those numbers. So the first thing that would affect those numbers would be the geography. So the bigger the geography, the lower the cost per lead, and the more you have to consider doing this in a virtual way. So I'm going to give you my example. I'm in the South Florida area. Specifically, I live in Broward County. If I target Broward County, all right, I'm going to get leads for typically somewhere around $18 to $25 a lead. So let's just assume that it's $20 a lead. Now, that's better than most. Why? Because I know what I'm doing, right? So hopefully I can teach you so that you can be like me and know what you're doing. So you might have higher cost per lead. So somebody starting out in Broward County may have a $30, $35 cost per lead, but you bring that down. For me, let's say an average of $20 cost per lead in Broward County. Now, if I were to take that campaign and spread it out and say I would target the entire state of Florida, now I'm going to have leads that are going to be ranging anywhere between $8 to $12. But I'm going to have to be able to be okay with doing deals in a virtual way. And so that's one of the items that affects the situation is the cost per lead. Always keep this in mind with the cost per lead, because at the end of the day, you don't want cheap leads for the sake of cheap leads. So as you're generating leads, and let's say that the cost per lead is $30, but so as you're talking with these sellers, if these sellers are the type of sellers that you would want to speak with, if they own the type of properties that would lend themselves to need repairs and fixing up, etc., and for our business, then that's perfectly okay for you to be spending that much per lead. And don't go out and try and deliberately bring that cost per lead down, and then now you're going to get crappy leads. I had a student recently that has a deal that he got for, he's done already several deals using Facebook ads. This one in particular, he's going to make $30K, and it's off of a campaign that he thought his cost per lead was high, was $35 a lead. But these are good leads, so it's all relative. What I would say is you want the best quality leads at the best price that you can get them. Now, that being said, if you're starting off the bat and you're starting to do Facebook for the first time and you're getting leads for, let's say, $75 or $100 a lead, then that's just way too much. It's just way too much. You shouldn't have that. So there's an upper limit. If you told me, Chico, I got great leads for $300 on Facebook, and I would say, well, you could probably get those same leads for a lot less money, you're doing something wrong, right? So there's some flexibility there, but up to a certain point, I have to say, I think you got a problem there. So let's talk about the next variable, and the next variable is going to be the creatives and the proper account structure. So if your ads are not that great, if your campaign structure is not optimized, then you're going to suffer from paying for and having very expensive leads. And so then that's something that could affect your cost per lead. So let's say now that you have the technical aspects of everything figured out. You got the right campaign structure, you've got the right creatives, and now you're getting these leads at $30 a lead, maybe $25 a lead. And so the next question is, okay, if I get 50 leads, am I going to get a deal? The fact is that you could get a deal sooner or you could get a deal later, even with that. So what affects that? Well, one of the main things, a key item that affects this, there's three that I wrote down here on my notes. Number one is your ability to speak with sellers. So if you are just horrible over the phone, when you call a seller, you sound very amateurish and you're not confident, and the sellers, they just have this inkling that maybe you don't know what you're doing, and so that's a problem. You're gonna struggle and you might need more leads. If you and I have the same number of leads that we're working with, and I got 50 leads and you got 50 leads, and you're just starting out brand new in the business, and I've been in this business now for, I don't know, since 2003 or 4, I mean, that's a long time, 15 years. Chances are that I'm going to make do with those leads better than you. Okay, and I'm not saying that from an ego, but just from a practical perspective, is I just know more. I've been through. I have like 15 tours of duty, so that is going to affect you. The second thing is your ability to analyze properties correctly, because you might say no to a deal that could have been a deal, or you could have negotiated improperly a deal because you did not analyze it correctly. You were trying to get too low of an offer from the seller. The seller said, no way in heck, I'm going to sell my property for that price. And in the end, you walked away from it, but hey, you could have put it on the contract for the price that the seller wanted. And in the end, you could have made some money from that, but you didn't. Last but not least is the buyer's list. Because you could go out and generate the leads. You can go out and be able to be speaking with the sellers and be great at it. They love you. They want to invite you to Thanksgiving dinner, for crying out loud. They just love you that much. You are an expert, a ninja at analyzing properties. You could tell exactly that this is the right property at the right price. But now you got to sell it. You got to find a buyer. And if you don't have a good buyer's list, if you don't have you can't find the right people for this property, you could end up at the end not being able to sell the contract. You end up having to cancel the deal, and then some other investor picks it up. They go ahead and do exactly that. They go out and find a buyer. They make themselves a nice big fat assignment fee of $10,000 to $15,000, and then you're left thinking, this didn't work. This didn't work. The business didn't work, and I don't know what to do. So that is a very important thing to consider, that there is I always say that there's always a synergy of things that come together to make this business work. And it's the same thing with Facebook. And I just laid out for you what to expect when it comes to Facebook advertising, so that you know exactly what you have in store. However, even then, you need to be mindful of the fact that there's other variables that account for your success in this business. And it's never one thing. It's always about the combination of things all coming together to create success. And that's what you have to look at when you're looking at this. Now, I do have to say, with Facebook, unlike direct mail, where if you're going to send out a direct mail campaign and then you got to say, look, I'm going to spend $3,000 in order to make a deal, and you got to take all your chips, your money chips, and you got to lay them down on the table, and you got to say, hey, I'm going to put that direct mail campaign out and I hope it works. So now you got to write a big check. The benefit with Facebook is that, you only got to write checks at $20 a pop. So the only way that you would spend $1,500 is that you've already spent, $50, and you've gotten leads, and you feel that, these are the right type of leads for me. And now you say, let me spend another $50 and get some more leads, and let me spend another. And you know what? If you're, unlike direct mail, let's say, for example, where you're sending out, 2,000-3,000 postcards, and if maybe the postcard isn't correct, then now you got to try another one. But you spent quite a bit of money in order to figure out if that postcard worked or not. With Facebook, you can quickly know if you've got everything put together correctly to then make a decision if you're going to continue spending. If not, you stop and you get help. If you're in my Facebook group, if you're part of my program, then you can get help, and I can help you and say, hey, here, change this, edit this, your ad doesn't look that great, etc. And so those are the things that I like about Facebook ads. So I've got a series here that teaches you how to go out and find motivated sellers on Facebook. It's a 3-part series. I want you to look at that. And if you watch that already, maybe look at the one that I have that shows you virtual wholesaling, step-by-step, how to do that in my 3-part video series. And again, make sure you check out the links in the description if you want to gain access to my paid training that I can coach you and mentor you and teach you the way so that you can have success.